In this Tech Talk, I am diving into all things croissants with Jeff Dearduff, Regional Sales Manager at Fritsch, which is part of the Multivac Group. Hi, Jeff. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Hi, Joanie. Great to be with you again and look forward to this conversation.
Me too. Me too. And this is a hot topic right now. Croissants are really having a moment. And I guess I'm just going to start with a really easy question. Why are croissants so popular? What is it about them that makes them so special?
Well, I think it really starts with there is a mystique about croissants being special from the European marketplace, and how they're made, and it really comes down to that bite, that flavor, that crispiness that you'll get, and then the fats inside, and then they become, it used to be you dipped them in a cup of coffee and enjoyed it in the morning. Now it's used lunch sandwiches, dinner, just lots of different uses for a product that it feels high end. It performs high end, and people enjoy that.
Yeah, that's true. They are really special and really versatile as well. So, okay, we cannot have a conversation about croissants without talking about the layers. So, can you sort of walk me through how the layering happens and how many layers are there in a croissant? I guess I should say, how many layers should there be in a croissant? Because I've heard a range of numbers all the way up to 100 layers. So can you sort of walk me through how it happens and what sort of the target is for making a great croissant?
It's one of the trickiest questions to answer because everybody has an opinion on this. If you go back to the French, when they created what they call the croissant from actually an Austrian pastry they brought over to France, it's stated in many places the croissant has 55 layers. I've seen recipes. Gordon Ramsay has a recipe where he claims 500 layers. And how that happens is simply, it's dough and fat, your butters and your margarines. So it's dough, fat, all the way through the process. And it's really about how many times you mechanically or by hand fold that dough over itself that creates those layers. So on the bench or on the smaller shop type deals, you can get hundreds of layers in a croissant. Mechanically, on the big industrial lines, you can find yourself limited because you have automation that layers the dough back and forth, and you can only add so many of those positions in a big line.
Yeah. Okay. So speaking of that, I think I've really seen industrial production of croissants really ramp up in the past 20 years. You mentioned how automation can sort of help with the layering. What does that look like today? And then how is Fritsch sort of helping automate this process to really be able to make high quality croissants at scale?
There's really, when you think about industrial production of croissants, there's really, I'd call it two key methods of producing it. One is you make a block of dough and you rest it for 10, 12, 18 hours and you bring it back to the line, or you do continuous processing, which a lot of the high speed plants will be doing. And it starts at the front of the line. It's really about how gentle can you handle that dough. And Fritsch, for instance, has worked really hard at the front end of the line to create a technology which is trademarked as soft processing. And that's a combination of equipment pieces that create that beginning of the stream. And it really is critical because the beginning does equal the end. If you don't have it right in the beginning, you won't have it right in the end. So, it really comes to how big do you want to go? And Fritsch can actually offer lines that are for the medium-sized bakery that adds some semi-automation or automation. And then you have the big high volume lines that you've probably seen in some of the bakeries. They're the fun ones because obviously It's all about how many pounds can you get through a bakery to make it viable and financially, healthy. And
Yeah.
those big lines can do that.
Yeah. And so I'm like what you said about the need for this to be done very gently. Because I imagine the more layers you put in, the more fragile the dough would become. Is that a safe assumption?
Absolutely. So the layering becomes, a millimeter thick each layer or less. Matter of fact, when you're ready to cut and process a croissant, we're talking 4 or 5 millimeters period that may have those anywhere from 30 to 50 to 100 layers, depending on what you've done up the line. So, if you get too much pressure in it, you'll start stretching the dough and exposing the fat layers, which then creates a problem down the line, not only for the mechanicals, but for the final quality of the product.
Right. I've been in bakeries where I've seen hand forming, and I've seen 10, 12, sometimes as many as 20 people working on the line. And that is a big problem these days because of this labor situation that we're in. So can you talk a little bit about some solutions with automation that can help alleviate that labor?
Yeah, I can not only, talk about that, but I can relive some of that. Hand forming has always been part of croissant making, simply because there's a manipulation of that dough piece that it's very precise. And all through time, it's been a person, a worker that is doing that. And the more volume you throw down the line, the more workers you need. So back in 2012, Fritsch designed a mechanical robotic device that actually replicates that human hand in picking up that croissant and bending it to the position that it needs to be for the particular item. So there's vision that sees the croissant on the belt, and then the robot arm goes to that and bends it into the configuration you're looking for.
That's amazing. It is really important to note that you don't just work for an equipment company, you were a baker for a really long time. And you mentioned sort of the whole process. And you said something that was it really struck me. How it starts impacts how it's finished. So while Fritsch works with the raw dough, can you sort of just talk about the importance of the whole process? Like, what else is there when it comes to croissant production, and then how Fritsch sort of fits into that bigger picture?
Yeah, so I think it's really about after the croissant is formed, what happens to it, and there's different ways that'll get taken care of in bakeries. It can be fed to a proofer and do a proof and then a bake. It can go in the proofer and then to a freezer, and then there's just the straight frozen dough croissant where it comes off the line and goes right straight to a freezer in that shape. Now, the critical thing is when that handoff happens, that shape that we've just made has to hold. That again comes back to that processing of dough throughout. Because if you have dough that's got too much stress in it, a closed croissant might open up. So it's very critical. That's why it matters with what you start with and what you finish with.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. So, final question. What's the easiest way for a baker to get in touch to learn more about what Fritsch offers in terms of croissant production?
What's really cool about Fritsch is that there's a ton of information available on the internet in a couple different ways. The website, www.fritsch-group.com, that has all the products that are produced, all the machines that are produced for those products, and a lot of videos, and there's even some interactive type things available through that. And the other way is YouTube. They have an extensive YouTube menu out there where you can go on and watch the machines in action making real product, and then also the demonstration type videos out there. So that's a great place to go start and get your toes wet in Fritsch technology. And then obviously reach out to one of us here in the U.S. That are out helping bakers solve problems.
I love it. Jeff, thanks so much for taking time to talk to me today. I always enjoy talking to you, and I've known you for a long time, since you were a baker. And so I just really appreciate you sharing the insight that you have, that you've built over so many years. So thanks for spending time with me today.
Thanks, Joanie. And like I said, I enjoy working with you guys, and enjoyed this opportunity. Appreciate it.